hero.
Have you any hobbies?
My hobbies are fast cars and fast women.
Hobbies are healthy. They teach you things.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
Happy Memorial Day. It's time for Around the UFL. We got a big panel ahead of us, with us, and you'll see we got a very special guest right from the get-go. I mean, this doesn't normally happen. Usually we're it comes a little bit later, but my man Boogie Roberts is on the show today, and we got a big one. I'm telling you, we got big news about this season. We got big news about next season. We got power rankings. And we got the Maulers legend, Boogie Roberts, in the house. So first, how you doing, my man? How you doing today?
I just want you to know I would have been here about 3-4 weeks ago. Blame the little guy down to the bottom right.
Who,
No.
Ducky?
No.
Ducky doesn't make mistakes.
That one. Where's my finger pointing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm happy
really?
for you guys to have me. I'm excited. I've been meaning to get on this show, so I'm excited about this episode.
Good stuff, man. Glad to have you, Zachy boy. We're debating. We were ping-ponging on who would be the host. I won or lost. Doesn't depends. How you doing today?
Hey, put it whatever you want. I'm doing great. Both no curtains as we always do. I got 20 minutes of sleep from night shift work, and ref, you turned into a lobster this weekend. I hear, thanks to the Houston Sun. So.
Yep.
Look,
Yep. It was
just
a hot
straw.
one.
That's all it was.
It was a hot one out in Houston yesterday. That is for sure. Ducky, shucky ducky, quack quack. You made it back. How you doing, man?
Good to be here. Yep.
That's all you got for us?
Yeah, that's all I got. Boogie called me out. Now I'm thinking.
Did you at least bring the popcorn this week?
I actually am so late. I don't even have anything to drink or eat.
Oh my goodness.
I made the same mistake. I was here earlier and I still forgot to grab a water. But hey, that's how
Don't
we
worry,
do
I got my Stanley right here. I don't go nowhere without it.
See, you come prepared. Mr. Nick Thorne, how you doing today, my friend?
Good. It was a surprisingly interesting weekend of football. You know, everything locked up, but I think there's still a lot to talk about this week, so I'm excited to get into it.
And last but not least, James Larson. Hopefully you're keeping yourself out of trouble over there. How you doing?
Doing good. Yeah, I had to take a week off from travel due to some car issues, so I wasn't
traveling the country as I usually am week to week. But yeah, excited, a lot to talk about. Some news that I know you have to share, and we got Boogie in the house, the GOAT. So I'm excited. It's gonna be a fun show.
Yeah, I know. Well, and I'll tell you this, like I said, I am so out of it from the game yesterday, from sitting in the sun and baking and probably not drinking enough water. I'll be honest, I am not in my best hostly duties right now. Where do you guys want to kick off? Well, I know we usually do the power rankings first, but we do have Boogie in the house. What say you, James? You're the smarter man in this situation.
Well, I mean, there definitely was a lot to talk about when it comes to the gameplay this weekend. I thought that even though the games didn't mean a ton in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the playoffs, we saw some teams go out there and perform really well, and we saw some trends continue for some organizations that I think need to blow it up this offseason. And I think there's certain organizations that might be regretting their decision to not keep Boogie on their roster. But that's just me.
Well, I know one that should have had him on the roster, and I was at the game yesterday. I mean, the Houston Roughnecks, man. I don't know why you. Anyway, we could go into the ins and outs of it. So, do you want to jump into the power rankings and then maybe give your take on where we sit? And I'm assuming you're watching all these games just like we are.
Oh yeah, I don't miss a game. It's hard to watch.
Oh yeah.
It's hard to watch, but I also have a lot of friends and former teammates that are scattered all around the league, so I'm also there to support. You know, a couple Maulers here, a couple Maulers there, guys from my hometown team on certain teams. So I don't miss a game. I'm there probably 5 minutes before the game start, locked in, sitting on the edge of my bed, locked in. So yeah, I'm ready.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm curious here because when we look at the power rankings, right? So we still have the Stallions at number 1. The Stallions did lose this week. I'm curious when you, Boogie, your take, screw us. Everybody's heard our take all season here. When you look at these power rankings, is there anything that maybe doesn't fit, is out of place, or does, I don't know, what is your take on this list right here? I'm curious to get it from a player's perspective because we're all just a bunch of yokels on the internet, talking about it.
I think you guys have it right. If I would make one change, and it's pulling hairs, I could go St. Louis and Michigan switch, because I do believe if AJ started that game, they would have won. They would have beat Arlington, so I don't want to have like recency bias and say that they're number 4. I do believe they're a top 3 team in this league, but Michigan is playing well. They have a lot of fluctuation at quarterback. I would like for them just to pick their quarterback and go with that guy heading into the playoffs, because I do believe that's something the team needs, to know who their guy is. You shouldn't have to go into every week wondering who's going to be the QB1. It could change every series and things like that. So that would be my only change if AJ is healthy. But if not, then Michigan 3 and St. Louis 4 is fine with me. And everything else seems legit. I do like the Arlington team. I know they had a lot of close losses. I do believe they're way better than their record suggests. But they just have to find a way to finish out close games.
Yeah, that's what we've brought that one up a few times this season. Arlington was, because they have those glimpses. I mean, case in point, we saw what they did against the Showboats a couple weeks ago. And they're starting to get to get it past the win line. But even when they were losing those games, they were doing it very much like Houston was doing in season 1 of the USFL, where they were leading. Fourth quarter comes, last minute, we lost the game. I
mean, Boogie knows that one pretty well. I mean, Pittsburgh, their one win with that last second victory against the Gamblers that season.
I don't know what it is about Houston and Pittsburgh, because the 2 years, 1 year we won on the last snap, and then the next year we lost on a missed field goal, I believe. So we've always had games that go down to the wire against the Gamblers.
So I'm curious, do you know what ref's law is? Has that made its way through your channels yet? Because to me, it's quite the anomaly. And I'm assuming you don't. Probably not. So ref's law.
I've never heard of it. It might not be as popular as you think, ref. So
no, I don't think it is. I don't think it's very popular, but it is quite the anomaly. Let me state this.
It started amongst the players now is what he
ref's law since the beginning of last season has a better record than the Birmingham Stallions regular season record. Ref's law has only been wrong on 2 occasions. Now you might ask yourself, what the hell is ref's law? Well, in some crazy, wacky universe, the Michigan Panthers and the Houston Roughnecks cannot have the same outcome on any given week. If the Panthers win, the Roughnecks or the Gamblers lose, depending on which season you're looking at. I said it as a joke last year to try to jinx Zach's team, which, I mean, it worked to a certain degree. They got into the playoffs. Still, we didn't. But then this year, I mean, we're 8 out of 9 games. We were 9 out of 10 games last year. I don't know how that's even possible. Other than, I know it's not me actually saying it and willing it into reality, but at this point, I wonder how the hell is it even possible that we're nearly 2 seasons in and the Roughnecks or the Houston team and the Michigan team cannot win on the same weekend? That's crazy. Or lose on the same weekend. That's insane. Anyway, 88.8% on the season so far. That's my contribution to spring football.
And I would ask you, do you want to go to Vegas with me, or do you have the Powerball numbers coming up?
I know, right?
If you're that good.
I don't know if I'm that good. I think it's only because I made the greatest mistake. And this is the one rule that I tell everybody that gambles on sports. Don't gamble on your own team. And so I mentioned something that with my team, and now I feel bad for all the Roughnecks players out there. I might have jinxed them this year just a little bit. I don't know what's happening. Anyway, I've derailed this.
You're the reason.
No, I am the reason. They're going to get me in the stands next year.
I'm happy for the results of Bref's Law. That's all I'm going to give you.
Rub it in.
Of course, the resident Michigan Panthers fan is happy with those. Look, Houston, I think for Ref and your team, Houston's been a frustrating team because I know we've talked about Arlington and they were playing pretty rough to start the season, but Arlington is a better team than their record reflects. And I think their biggest issue, the self-inflicted wounds. This week, they didn't turn the ball over. They were smart down the stretch. Their defense stepped up, got stops, and that's why they won. Houston, on the other hand, it feels like it's the same story every week where this team is so talented. Their defense has played really well. It's just they can't get out of their own way. Like the little penalties, the little mistakes. It's like these little mental errors that I think part of it is goes back to the coaching as well, which we can get to a whole discussion on that. But Houston and Arlington, yeah, 2 of the worst teams in this league, but they are better than the record reflects. I think the talent is there. Memphis is a team that, in my opinion, they need to blow it up. Like, they have some serious issues there. Like, they aren't competitive with anybody.
No.
Well, they were against the Roughnecks in the first game. I hate to admit that, but that is a reality that I have to see. But we do get to go down to the last game of the season, last week of the season, with with both of them taking each other on. Now, I hope to see the rule that we saw in season 1. Whoever wins the game gets the number 1 seed. And Boogie, you were there for that too.
The toilet bowl.
I'm curious, do you like the toilet bowl or the pooper bowl better?
I like the toilet bowl. I still remember when Daryl made that announcement. We were so bad that year. Jesus Christ. I kind of thought it was funny. We were just a mess. Our uniforms were terrible. I hated the colors. Our record was bad, and that gave us something to look forward to. And then before the defense could even get on the field, I think we were down 13-0 like instantly. And I'm like, oh, yeah, we get the number 1 pick. It's a wrap. So it kind of felt like we were happy to get the number 1 pick. So I think it gives the fans something to look forward to for the offseason, because with this league, you need to try to build as much excitement in the offseason to keep fans engaged as possible. And I think that, along with the expansion talks, whether it happens or not, will just garner some extra attention and bring more eyes to the collegiate draft that they're having.
Zach, I know you had sent out that tweet about it. What are your thoughts on how they could orchestrate this? Because the dilemma that I see is Arlington, if they lose, they've got a 2-8 record. Whichever team wins will have a 2-8 record between Memphis and Houston. The loser of that has a 1-9 record. How do you sort through that if Arlington loses?
Well, I think, to me, like I said, it's a unique scenario where no matter what, you're going to have, in a traditional sense, the 1-8 would already be qualified as that overall. So that's why I justify it. I mean, Arlington, it would be because it's out of their hands and they already played themselves out of that contention for that pick in this case. In a traditional sense, that's why I would say, for a little more ratings perspective and a little more just something to play for is how I view it. I know that the 2-8 record if we're talking the tiebreakers would not work here, I would say that to me, my honest opinion, you just waive it. Because either way, you just would move it to the original traditional setup is how I view it. Maybe you have to go through those. I don't know, but I'm putting like kind of a rule of cool spin on it. It's not the best way of doing it, but that's kind of how I am taking it in the sense where no matter what, the person who was last in the sense would still be taking the pick in an old setup. I just want it to be like it was before. I liked the old one 2 years ago. I want to see something to be playing for, I guess. And the fact it's 7 o'clock Eastern, it's a primetime slot on Sunday. Wouldn't be bad to put a little bit more juice on that, just being honest.
I don't think the league could have imagined that primetime final slot would be between 2, 1, and 8 teams.
But you put a gimmick on it, and all of a sudden, maybe you got something going for it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they handle that with Arlington. Now, again, Arlington still does have a chance to win next week. So
I think they can beat DC. I think they should.
Right? And so it might become a non-issue altogether. But yeah, spring football, you got to love it, right? We'll have to see what they do and how that rolls out. But Ducky, I'm curious, what do you think they should do?
I think they should do it. And I don't know. I thought it was called a tank bowl. I didn't know what you guys.
That's one of the, there's a few
That's
names.
a little different.
I thought it was a tank bowl. I didn't know. I was like,
You were a Breakers fan that season. You probably weren't even paying attention to that game.
What fan?
Uh-oh.
Wait a minute.
you didn't know that, Boogie?
No. So you
Dude,
ain't
you
with
broke them,
Breakers
though.
fans?
Yeah, year one, I was a Breakers fan.
It makes sense because you love Kyle Sloter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Kyle
You seem a
Slater
little
touchdown.
starstruck over there. I ain't heard Ducky talk this whole episode.
Diffusing the bomb.
Oh,
right?
that's my thing. I don't
what
talk. I'm the AJ Hawk of this panelist thing.
You would never tell by his online presence.
That's the
Oh,
beauty
no,
of
no.
it.
Oh, no.
Dude, if I'm typing, I'm yapping. But if I'm just I'm just here.
That's why I love having Ducky on this show, only because I've met him in real life, right? On a few occasions, right? And I would say you're even probably more open in talking in real life than you are even on the show. But there is definitely a difference in the online personality and like real life Ducky.
Yeah.
People online refuse to believe that. There's
dude,
some
they're
people
always
that
like-
think you are like the devil.
I met so many people in Canton last year. They're like, you're not a dick at all. Like, you're nice. Like, what's going on here?
I don't have the dump button here.
But yeah, I think Ducky was the main reason that the Breakers fans lost it last year, man. They were in like meltdown mode. Even when they won, they were angry. And I partially blame Ducky for that.
Ever since I left that fan base, they fell apart.
Now they don't have a team.
Right here, right now.
Anyway, what else do we have on the docket here? See, this is why I shouldn't have hosted
Some great
this week.
storylines this week. I mean, that's the thing I got for sure. Look, I'll tell you one thing. Everyone wants to know, I think, thoughts on just the one big upset from the weekend, the streak that is over, the monster that was slain, as some have put online. San Antonio getting the upset win, and I think there's a bit to unpack, and I think there's a bit of debate on this one because of the fact that you have two squads, one that, as we've talked in previous weeks, is getting their key players back from injury, starting to load up a little bit for a stretch run into the championship game here in 2 weeks with a rematch setup of series. Meanwhile, Birmingham, it's kind of nothing to play for, but could you get the undefeated season? And I'll be honest, to lead things off, guys, and kick it away as you go now. Looked like everything I've been just kind of catching up with this game and keeping tabs when I've watched or rewatched. Brahmas just seemed like they wanted a little bit more, which, to be fair, they did have a little bit more to play for in this. And that extra effort right now, thanks to that Wade Phillips-led squad, they're one win away from having a home field advantage that some of us didn't think was going to be possible, thanks to what St. Louis was looking like a few weeks back, roughly about week 7 or so. So kind of a surprise setup that's going to be put in place, that we have back-to-back games against the Battlehawks for them, that now it's not just a throwaway game or anything like, say, in the USFL conference where you don't have a home field advantage to play for. Now you got to play to win to get your home squad to rep. It's going to be a fun, tough matchup for the Battlehawks. They can at least get home field advantage for this next week. But there's a lot of stuff that comes from that game. That, the upset, I mean, I want to hear your thoughts on all of it, but like tons of stuff came from that result just because of an upset, not just because of the break in the streak. But now the playoffs, a little bit different vibe if San Antonio gets a win next week.
The big thing for San Antonio is they're finally getting healthy again. And that's what really hurt them during that middle of the season where you have Chase Garbers go down, Quentin Dormady comes in. They got some wins with him, but he wasn't playing great. And Anthony McFarland missed like 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, that's a guy that arguably could be the top running back in this league with his speed. We saw him come back a week ago and have 136 total yards, a couple of touchdowns, and then he had another big game against Birmingham. I think he had over 80 rushing yards. He's a guy, he's so dynamic, and you just watch him on the field, and it's like he's literally faster than everybody else out there. Like, he makes some of these guys that are really talented athletes look slow. So I think for San Antonio, them getting healthy, they've gotten a couple of their offensive linemen back as well. And defensively, they've had a couple of guys return from injury too. So you put all those pieces together. Thorne, I know we've talked about this leading up to the season. They had so many NFL caliber guys join this team throughout the offseason that now you put those pieces together, they are a dangerous team. They are the sleepers to come out of the XFL conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I've talked a lot about San Antonio early in the season when people were ranking them like 7, 8. I thought that was way too low. And now that they're kind of getting their pieces back, I think they're an absolute contender. I had them at 1 this week. So clearly I believe in it. But the thing that I thought was more interesting in this game was Birmingham, because I've kind of noticed this throughout their winning streak, and it hasn't mattered because they kept winning games. As long as you're winning games, that cures all ails. But this is a flawed team. I don't view this as like this juggernaut team that is unbeatable going into the playoffs. I think like there's like 3 issues with this team that makes it so like there's a reason I had them at 3. I have Michigan over them right now. And
I don't even buy that as a Michigan fan. I'm sorry, but I'll let
that's
you continue.
Fine. Thing 1, mistakes. It's been throughout the year. Every game they're due for like 2 or 3 like bone crushing mistakes, and they've out talented a lot of teams, so it hasn't mattered. But you saw this week, Kenny Robinson, bonehead penalty. In previous weeks, we saw Carlos Davis get multiple penalties against St. Louis. We've seen muff punts. We've seen fumbles, bad interceptions. They're just a team that's not playing very clean football. Their defense has looked worse as the season's gone on. The first 5 weeks, they were looking like the best defense spring football's ever seen. I was looking at the roster and going, man, they have 11.
I can't believe you just said that.
What did you do? What did you do?
I was going to let you flow because you were going and I was with you. There's no way. There's no way.
Through a few weeks, that has fallen off though. That they're not there anymore. The defense has been pretty porous the last couple weeks. Houston gave up 28 to Houston. They're not in that conversation anymore. And it feels like they've gotten weaker as the season's gone on instead of stronger. And the one thing that I've really noticed, and I even looked it up to see if this was, just in my head, Adrian Martinez, really good quarterback, the MVP. And I'm not even arguing that he shouldn't be the MVP, but when you pressure him, he is, the grade through 8 weeks. So this is not even including the San Antonio game this week was 63, which is average. But most of that is running the ball. He's a 91 grade running the ball against pressure. When he's has to sit in the pocket and, deal with pressure and throw the ball, he has been the 12th best quarterback in the league at that. And he is, I believe, 11 for 32 on pass attempts under pressure through 8 weeks. And it's no way it's got better because he was getting killed out there this week. And I look at that and I go, okay, let's look at the defenses in the playoffs. San Antonio, good pass rush. St. Louis, good pass rush. Michigan, good pass rush. That's something that if, they don't correct these issues, I'm this could be something where you saw New Jersey in year 1, they get killed in the playoffs because they had these flaws, but the winning kind of just, made that not matter. And maybe losing this game makes them look in the mirror and change some things. But right now I'm looking at it, I'm they're very talented. They could absolutely still win it, but I'm not bought in on them right now.
I think it's a fair point to, that they're not like far and above the other teams. I still think that Skip Holtz, what he's done, they always find ways to bounce back. Like they've taken a couple losses and bounced back big. The thing I want to point out, your point about the defense, John Chavis has not been there the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Their defensive coordinator, back in week 7, I think, he wasn't there. Corey Chamberlain took over. He's a DB coach there. And originally the broadcast talked about how he was missing with an illness and things like that. But this past week, it seemed like he was healthy. And I know he was at practices. And I don't know Luke Miller isn't here today, but he would probably have more insight for us on that and what's all broken down between that. But Chavis was not there. And since Chamberlain has taken over, this defense has not looked the same. They need to find a way to get John Chavis back. I don't know what's all going on there. There's some stuff that I actually probably shouldn't say right now based on some things I know behind the scenes, but it's a very strange situation, and it just makes you wonder what in the world is going on behind the scenes in Birmingham.
Spring football, man. You got to love it, right? Yeah, I mean, here's my take on the situation. Are the Stallions the best team ever? I mean, no, they're not the best team ever. They're a pretty good team, though, and I'll tell you that much. I'll put it like this. If I was Skip Holtz and we already locked up the playoffs, you essentially already locked up home field, regardless if you win or lose, because the game's going to be in Birmingham anyway, right? Would you go out there and show them everything that you have potentially a few weeks before you might play this team in the championship? I wouldn't. Now, I wouldn't go out there to lose the game, but I might not go out there and do everything that it would take to win the game. And we might have saw a little bit of that with St. Louis. This is why I get called biased, by the way, and I'm just calling it like I see it. If I was a coach going into the playoffs, playing against the team that I might have to play again in a couple weeks, and I think we'll see this again next week when they play the Panthers.
Even more so next week.
I don't think we're going to see the A-game Stallions. That's not to say that they don't have their faults, because, Nick, I actually agree with you. The Stallions are a beatable team. I've always thought the Panthers could get past them, and I think either of the XFL teams could get past them. But they did do what I thought they needed to do. They got a loss this season. I don't think it's always cool to have the undefeated thing going on. There's just some bad juju with that. It's cool to do it, but is it cool if you don't get the championship? No, not really, right? So that's my take on it. I don't know.
I don't agree with them not going out there next week, putting their A game out there, because last year we played Michigan the week before the playoffs and then had to play them the next week, and we almost lost. We were play away. I think we went to overtime. Michigan definitely could have been in the USFL championship last year. So you go out there to week 10, you play hard and put your guys out there, and then you go out there in the USFL playoff game and do the same thing, because you don't want to have a lapse. You don't want to get too comfortable. And also, you don't want to give Michigan confidence. This isn't the same Michigan team. You want to go out there and dominate them so that they're like, wow, they just dominated us the week before, and now they're scrambling the things. You don't want to give Michigan any confidence, because on a one-game situation, any given Sunday, anybody can win. So that's why I will put all my guys out there, because they haven't been dominating the way that people think. In terms of the offense, like before the season, like I always speak highly of Deion Kane. I don't know what's going on with their downfield passing. That's the blueprint to beat them. If you have guys up front that can stop the run, like you've seen with San Antonio, because I think Ricky might have had negative yards this week. I've never seen a running back in this league have negative yards, especially that dominating O-line from Birmingham. So if you can stop them and from running the ball and take away their quick game, the slants, they've been struggling this year. That downfield connection just hasn't been there like we've been seeing from Deion Kane, because I thought he was going to be in a running for offensive MVP, and they can't even connect on a bomb. He looks to the outside, the ball's on the inside. He looks on the inside, the ball's on the outside. So something is just not clicking there. That needs to get fixed heading into the playoffs. And they also need to get, I think, CJ more involved. Ricky, he's a very physical back. It worked for a few weeks. Guys start questioning, well, is Ricky their best back? But there's a reason why CJ's been there the last 3 years, and he's proven he can catch the ball out of the backfield. You give him carries, he gets just as many yards as Ricky, and he runs hard. He might not look like it, but I've had to play against him. He runs hard. He's broken my tackles. I've seen him break tackles all the time. So I think you need to get him more involved. Jake's playing amazing. You need to feed Jake. Jake should be the number one option for them moving forward in terms of the passing game, and then take your shots with the weapons on the outside. And I think their problems have been covered up by the pieces that they have at every position. You know, they have NFL caliber players at every position. Even their backups were starters on teams last year. So I think that's why the flaws haven't come to fruition in the forefront. But heading into the playoffs, I do think they need to clean some things up. So that's why I would keep all my guys out there next week. I wouldn't rest anybody. The guys that I plan on starting the week after are the guys that are starting this week, because it hasn't been clean enough. You haven't earned the right to sit people right now. That's my take on it.
I think for the sake of that, you just had your front five offensive line got bullied pretty much for 4 quarters is something that and look, I know I haven't played as long as you in any line capacity, but just remembering my days of playing football, you know, that's a pride thing. You have a bad week as a unit, you basically are kind of like, your next week's goal is like, hey guys, we got to right the ship here. This is not an acceptable level, especially for a squad that has regularly prided itself as being the top rushing team in the league. And I know that does partially come from Adrian Martinez scrambling and getting out and being able to do magic. But even if you take away his numbers, they generally are 1 and 2 up neck and neck with the Michigan Panthers as of late in that category. They pride themselves on being able to run, also opens up their pass game, which if it plays into what Nick's talking about, Adrian's in less pressure situations if he can do stuff. And I'll tell you, I thought the key, that one of the plays that really defined how I knew this was something that could show some effort, who wanted it more. The fact that the Stallions have a 3rd and 1 about second quarter and can't convert on a T formation. That is like their bread and butter, like big, we can beat you at your own game type of play, and we're going to dominate the front on you. And they got completely ran over on it. And I was like, that completely shows all I need to know right there. There was effort not being, I would think, fully put out there, and I think the Brahmas wanted it more badly at home. Special night with the whole yellow bullpen type of night they were doing. And then something I don't like, Nick, that they, to me, have been getting me a little flustered on lately when I watch them, specifically when it was with Houston last week, crept back in this week. Defensive penalties are starting to kill them a little bit. And I have not been liking that trend. You know, credit some stuff you can't fully manage. And Boogie, you can probably speak to the fact that, you know, defensive, receiver hitting a helpless receiver downfield, it's very hard to gauge how you're going to get that in the moment at times. But that being said, you know, some costly penalties late in this one really sank that ship. Even when they pulled it back within 3 points, they just couldn't get out of their own way. And that's something that definitely comes down to disciplined play. I have not seen it the last 2 weeks. Houston had showed it, and really any better team that was not the Roughnecks in week 8, we might be talking about a now 7-2 roster if it was not the Roughnecks that week. So penalties have been a problem. I do not like seeing that trend continue, and that's something they got to clean up. Playoffs are coming in really hot, and you know, as we've kind of hinted at, we'll talk about this in a minute. Panthers are getting better every week. I'm not a dumb fan. I do see they are getting better every week, so I'm not going to be a slouch out.
Bryce Perkins.
You don't want to give teams extended drives. You know, as a defensive lineman, that sucks. You know, drive extended penalties are killers, especially for the big boys up front. You know, you're going all out. Granted, they do have amazing depth up there on their D-line. Their D-line is amazing, speaking of Birmingham. But still, you don't want to have penalties, because if you're facing a team with a potent offense, let's say a San Antonio or a St. Louis, it may come back to bite you more than playing a Houston, who's kind of been trying to find their identity on offense, and also Michigan. So they might want to get those things cleaned up. It's just tough because you want your secondary to play aggressive. You want them to hit the receivers coming across the middle, but just trying to find that fine line of not gathering penalties and extending drives for the offense.
Makes me pull my hair out if I have something like that. And that's any type of football fan. Always are killers, you know. Always.
I think we have to have a conversation about the coaching in Michigan, because I feel like they've they are a team that they have been so good in these
Turnaround.
situations, dealing with injuries, dealing with problems. And, West Hills goes down. They still come out. They get production from their guys. And you look at Bryce, should be positioned, Boogie, I completely agree. They need to pick a quarterback, and I think it should be Bryce Perkins. I mean, what he's been able to do these last couple of weeks with his mobility, I mean, I feel like if he was in this league the entire season, he could be in the MVP conversation with all the pieces Michigan has. But they just have guys that step up week in and week out. COC Mariner, he's played fantastic football, and he joined the team after training camp. Like, he was signed, I think, prior to week 2. So these are the types of storylines where Michigan – they're gaining the momentum, and their coaching has been spot on. Marcel Belfe, the offensive coordinator, the fact that he's worked with 4 different quarterbacks this year, and Michigan is 7-2, that's pretty damn impressive.
Good Lord, it is.
And their defense, Towson, Colin Bauer as their defense.
Yeah.
Really well-coached defense. They can get after the pass rusher, and that's what it takes, with the condensing of this league. Offensive line has lagged behind defensive line. You need an elite defensive line to make these average offensive lines pay, across the board. And they've been really good at doing that. It's unfortunate they lost Levi Bell literally before he even took a snap for him. But even with him out, Speaks has gotten back into the Defensive Player of the Year category for a second year in a row. And, the Wilelkis and some of the other guys too. They've just had a really solid core. And I think that's a big reason why I feel like they could be better than a Birmingham going into the playoffs. They're getting hot at the right time right now, especially if they decide to go with Perkins.
Yeah,
and that's the thing. Go ahead, Boogie.
No, I was going to say, for them to lose their leader and captain and Frank Ginda and not miss a beat, when that happened, I kind of thought they were going to be trending in the wrong direction. But for them to keep the boat afloat and not miss a beat and guys step up, that's just a testament to that coaching staff. That first year DC has been playing amazing. They also have a lot of continuity. A good amount of those guys on the defensive side of the ball were their core guys last year and also the year before. So I think keeping some of your core guys, Michigan, is a testament to why you would want to keep a good amount of your guys and not try to bring in a bunch of new guys, because now you're seeing the results of that.
And the couple of new guys that they brought in have had either pro experience or had continuity with each other, like Bryce Torneden and Keith Gibson coming over from the Maulers. And then you bring in a guy like Kenny Willekes, who's played really well. Even a couple of guys that went down with injuries, like Daniel Wise was a new face. He unfortunately is probably out for the year on IR, but he was playing really, really well. They have so much depth across the board. And you look at some of the guys, like a guy like, I think you pronounce his name Jesus Gibbs, but he's been playing really, really well.
Call him Zeus.
Yeah. Zeus Gibbs. That's a guy that was literally just in
Dougie.
What's up, Dougie? That's a guy that was just in, I think, the Chicago Bears minicamp, and he comes in and he's already forcing fumbles. He's already making plays, getting after the quarterback, and it's a testament, like you said, Thorne, to the coaching there and to Colin Bauer and just the entire staff there, offensively and defensively. They've just been so impressive, and that's the thing. Birmingham, going back to the John Chavis thing, it feels like they're a little shaky at the coaching position right now. It's just some of the things going on behind the scenes. So that's going to play a really important part down the stretch of this season.
I know. You got it.
I just wanted to speak. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to speak really quick on Zeus because I'm a student assistant for Towson, so I watched him at his pro day. He was with the Chiefs this offseason. He's an interesting guy because he was an edge guy under Bauer when he was there at Towson, and has moved inside and is trying to be more of like a 3-tech. And as like a pass rusher there, I think he's been really good. He's had a very limited amount of snaps, but he's a guy that he might not be a huge impact this year, but he's a guy I'd watch out for next year. Get a full off season, maybe put on a little bit of weight. He's someone who I'm really high on. I think he could be a guy who could be a difference maker next year, especially.
I was going to say, if Bryce is going to be the guy moving forward, they do, I believe, need to get a connection with Marcus Sims, because I feel like his production dropped when Brian went out of the lineup, and I feel like he's their most dynamic weapon on offense, aside from Matt. Because I haven't seen any deep passes from, I may be mistaken, from Bryce or what's the other quarterback? that's been playing
Danny
more recently?
Etling.
No, that was the start. That's who
Ryan
gets
the rookie, yeah.
Yeah, that's who gets Marcus the ball. Etling throws him the ball, but Perkins and Lewerke, I believe they have to build a connection if they want to go forward and move along in these playoffs. Because with the ball in his hands, he's dynamic. We've seen him take a screen pass and go 60 yards. We've seen him beat DBs over the top. But with those two quarterbacks back there, I haven't seen that connection. So that's one thing I do feel like moving forward that the offensive staff has to figure out how to get Marcus Sims involved and keep him involved in the game plan.
And keep him healthy. Because he's been dealing with injuries this year, and he missed this past game. He was on the inactive roster because he was injured, but he's been dealing with back injuries and just stuff all year. So hopefully he can be healthy because that, again, like you said, such a key piece. And that's a guy, like, he's so dynamic because we saw week 6 against Arlington, they threw him back a kick returner, and he has that massive return that sets up a Jake Bates game winner. It's like, and we saw him do that last year against the Philadelphia Stars week 10. We saw him burst out in the USFL semifinals against your team, Boogie, with Pittsburgh. He had that 72-yard touchdown over the top against an elite defense. So that's a guy that, he's a burner. He'll beat you deep, but he's so dynamic. Just get him the ball in space, and he's going to make something happen.
When you're Marcel Belfay in this situation, so like first you're going to pick the quarterback, which I'm with everybody here. After last week, look, Perkins willed his way into getting a win in Houston. There's no doubt about that. I think you're hoping it's almost like in a sense how I think we saw Adrian Martinez with his first few games and how it kind of progressed where he gets more comfortable. You know, he was more of a heavier runner, then started getting more comfortable in the pocket and kind of getting his receivers down and who he was wanting to trust a bit more. And that's, I think, what will be the next step for Perkins here going into the playoffs. If they're going to continue to try and get that step to possibly move forward, is, you know, having connections and getting guys you trust is great for any quarterback receiver dynamic. And it's a bit different now that you've had to switch between. Now you're on 4 QBs this year that you've gone in between EJ Perry, Danny Etling, and, you know, much like Boogie's talking, Etling and Perry have leaned a ton on Sims. Credit, Sims has injuries, but, you know, you find a guy, you like a guy that you can trust as your go-to, and you need him in that moment, you go there. Lately, those guys have been Trey Quinn usually has been that guy in the last few weeks. Devin Ross this week. Seosi Mariner stepped up huge as a recent acquisition, and it's good to see that he's going to be getting more touches and more possessions. But, you know, I do think for what Sims is as more of a middle to deep field receiver and someone that is great and bulkier in the yards after the catch where he can bounce off guys, break tackles, that wouldn't hurt to get him healthy. You know, having him inactive this week, though it's unfortunate he didn't get to play. I mean, sometimes getting a week of rest might help get you ready for what is more of an important stretch run ahead. Could also possibly see him if he is not a full 100%, and given that they have a pretty diverse receiving cast of characters to go for. I mean, and keep in mind, we still got Devin Gray, and Samson Nakua has been on his game at times this year, that they don't need to necessarily lean heavily into him if they have to in week 10, because the more important game in this case, if you're talking depth, and James, you're muted if you were saying exactly, is it's ahead. It's the conference championship game in Birmingham. That's a guy you want at full 100% if you're going to get things set up. And you can work on those repetitions in practice too, even with some of the injuries. It's just, you know, guys want to play, I get it. He's a guy I think, you know, if I'm with Boogie here, I agree. He's vital to what they need to do ahead if they're going to have a chance. I don't mind seeing him sit if it's going to benefit the long run is the thing. You know,
and we've seen Birmingham, we've seen them give up the deep ball. Like, their DBs are like prototypically, like, they're very good, but they'll bite. So, like, you hit him with a double move. I mean, Marcus Sims did that to them in week 2. I think he got by Mark Gilbert. And then week 7, I was there when they played St. Louis, the Stallions, and they got the win. But there was a couple times where, you know, AJ hits them with a pump fake. Hakeem Butler beat them deep. I think Stephen Mitchell beat them deep as well, which ended up he dropped the pass, but he still beat them deep. So those sorts of situations makes you think down the road, you know, how is that going to play out? For me, a storyline, too, that I think we should cover briefly is St. Louis. You know, that's a team that I still think can win it, can make a championship run, but they have some things to figure out. Heading into the game against Arlington, they had the best not turning the football over, like protecting the football. They only had 6 turnovers all year, and they had 4 against the Renegades. Granted, Manny Wilkins threw 3 of those picks, and he likely won't be starting in the playoffs. I mean, AJ should be back, but he's still day-to-day. There's no guarantee that he starts week 10, which means that San Antonio could absolutely lock up the home field advantage, which could play a pretty big role in who ends up playing in that championship in St. Louis. So that's a storyline to keep an eye on. Anthony Beck today in the media call, he said that he definitely, like, even down the stretch of that game, when there was a couple of drives where St. Louis could have had an opportunity to tie things up, he didn't even think about putting AJ in because AJ, truthfully, is still not ready to play. They just had him in there as an emergency QB2 just in case Wilkins went down with an injury. Outside of that, he was sticking with Wilkins.
Yeah, I think there's kind of 2 things here. If they have to go with Wilkins, I don't think he has what it takes to beat these other teams in the playoffs. Not say obviously AJ McCarron's coming back. He hopefully will be ready for the playoffs, but you saw that, like, when it comes, he's a dynamic athlete, but when it comes to the passing game, he still is got a lot of rust on him. Made some really bad decisions down the stretch when he really needed to go win this game against Arlington. But I also am concerned about AJ because we saw against Birmingham after he had the ankle injury that he was not the same person, and he really wins by, manipulating the pocket, and that, like, he's not like a mobile quarterback, but his mobility is an important part of his game. And, especially, talking about offensive lines being behind defensive lines, that's really important in the playoffs. And if he's that kind of immobile statue quarterback going into the playoffs, he's going to get killed. Like, there's too many good defenses that he's going to go against. That's going to do what the Stallions did those last couple drives in that game after he got hurt. That, I'm just as concerned if McCarron's not 100% as I am if Wilkins is playing, frankly.
Especially with, I believe, I didn't know that that running back duo was going to be this dynamic because McFarland has been shot out of a cannon, and Lovett, I thought was a top 2 back in the league when he was playing. So now they truly have a 1A, 1B. I'll say they have the best running back duo in the league now with West being hurt, unfortunately. So I feel like if their game plan can keep the ball away from St. Louis, I know AJ wants to throw the ball around a lot, but if they can slow the game down and get 5-6 yards a pop with McFarland, then bring Lovett back in and that 1-2 dynamic, I do feel like they're going to give St. Louis a lot of trouble in that playoff game, whether AJ McCarron is healthy or not. I don't see anybody stopping that that San Antonio run game.
I think it's Lovett's progression to getting to where people have raised his eyebrows about him this year, coupled with, even more so than his XFL stint last season. Credit, not forgetting that either. But also couple the fact, McFarland's back, and like you guys are all talking, and that speed's insane. Like Wade Phillips and AJ Smith have talked, he is just bad fast. I love using that phrase, bad fast, man. You throw him out there, he's gonna get that 4.2, 4.1 speed. Impressive stuff, and not also that great hands, great open field awareness as well. And I'm Nick. I think with AJ, the situation, I hate that for them. This is not what they wanted to have happen. Where now they have to debate this week. Okay, well he was the emergency, but he was still QB2. How bad do we really? Do you have to debate now? How bad do we really need this home field? We're playing them 2 weeks in a row. I mean, personally, it would be nice to have them play against 30,000 opponents where they have a loud home crowd where they can have a little bit extra spark behind them. But that's the thing now. How much more of that decision to get him out and ready is now influenced because you couldn't get that win locked down in Arlington and kind of let it slip away with turnovers. Remember, this team was up 21-19 in the third quarter. Looking pretty nice and tidy where they were going to be able to keep pace, and the turnovers just completely ruined any chance of this to be what we were expecting as a win. Now you got to debate on who's going to be in what you do at the quarterback position with a guy that maybe isn't 100%, and you might have to get hit more.
That's the thing. It's kind of tough as a coach. Coach Beck has to make a decision because on one hand, just in case AJ isn't ready, you want to get Wilkes as many snaps as possible, whether those are good reps or bad reps. On the other hand, if the reps are that bad and you might lose home field advantage for the playoffs, you want to get AJ McCarron out there. So it's kind of like figuring out what's the best route you want to take for your team. And if he isn't ready, I don't believe he should be out there because you don't want the injury to keep him out of the playoffs.
Right.
So I say you go with Wilkes one more week. He learns from that tough ending of last game, and he improves. He's a pro. He's played a lot of football. He started a lot of games in his career. He hasn't played for a long, long time. Maybe he was rusty. It showed last week. So maybe give him one more week. Get AJ another week of rest and go from there.
Possible more eyes on the prize mentality in that case where, hey, if we're playing him again, don't worry guys, we'll have a better shot with the guy that's been our go-to, just need to get him another week of not having a bum ankle. Really important bum ankle that being, of course.
Yeah, I mean today, he said it's this pretty severe injury. He didn't say exactly what it was. I know AJ on the broadcast said that he broke his ankle. I don't think he broke it because if he did, he'd probably be on IR. But whatever happened, it's pretty nasty. And Thorne, to your point, even if he does come back, like that is going to be something to watch. Like how healthy will he actually be? Like that is really going to be. It's going to be tough. Boogie, something to me that I stuck out. I mean, look, Memphis has been just kind of a disaster this season across the board. Defensively, they've been terrible, the worst in the league in every category. And Troy Williams, a guy that you're very familiar with, had success with Pittsburgh last year. He's been kind of in and out of the quarterback position. He's dealt with injuries. What do you think has kind of held him back from seeing success in Memphis this year when it comes to just the overall, like what you're seeing on the field?
Hell, are we talking about Troy specifically or the team or
a mix of both, the
just
team
and
the situation that Troy's
just
in.
Me knowing Troy since high school, that's like one of my best friends. He hasn't been given the keys to the car. Coming into it, he never really was given a chance. Everybody knew that was Case Cook's job, so he was going to be the backup. And for him, he's a reps guy. It takes a little time to get started, but once it's rolling, it's rolling. And he's been in the lineup, out of the lineup. He hasn't been able to build that continuity with some of the guys like he was in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, he won the locker room over right away. And it still took him a couple weeks to get that starting job. So I feel like a full offseason with him knowing he's the guy, whether that's in Memphis or somewhere else, because I believe he could have helped Houston. I believe he would have been the best quarterback on Houston roster from week one if he was there, as opposed to backing up Case Cook, because I don't know what happened with that. But, that's my take on him. He just hasn't had the reps and been on the field long enough. And also, when somebody's in your ear knowing that you don't have the spot locked up, you start to play kind of tight. He hasn't been running as much as he used to. So I don't know. And in terms of the team, I'm kind of shocked because they have a lot of great pieces all over the field. Some guys have taken steps back. They haven't produced as much as they did in the previous 2 years. I don't know if that's a new system or a new scheme or what that may be, but guys that we thought were going to be playmakers this year haven't made plays, to be quite frank, and guys on defense that we had known the previous 2 years to be dominant haven't been dominant. So I don't know what they're going to do in terms of the offseason. I know you said to blow it up. I've been very disappointed with them because I have a lot of friends on that team, and it's just been tough to watch because they were a team that was supposed to compete with Birmingham this year, and they're at the bottom of their eighth. They're the worst team in the league. And coming into it, they were like, Birmingham better watch out for Memphis, and it just hasn't planned out that way.
Yeah, I mean, even us, when we went back to the beginning of the season, all of us had Memphis pretty high on our lists in those preseason power rankings and things like that. And I don't know, because I agree with you, Boogie. I think there's a lot of pieces there. It feels like there's coaching mistakes happening. And then, I mean, we can get into the weeds on that. But I feel like they're probably one or two tweaks away from actually being a pretty productive team. Similar with Arlington. Arlington has the same issue. Maybe a little bit different in execution because, I mean, Arlington, they look cleaner in their losses. I'll say that if that makes any sense.
Arlington's not getting dominated.
Let's talk about them. What are those tweaks you think they need to make? Because I feel like it's the end of the year.
Might be one
I feel like we need,
Sign Boogie.
Sign Boogie, bring Jaron in there. All of a sudden, you got a team. I'm telling you.
Would probably be happy to see you on net right next to you is what all I can say. He'd be like, reinforcements, all right. Something else.
I've called each team probably like 50 times, man. Literally, bunch of texts, bunch of calls, I've tried not to slip into the depression that I did in like 2020. So just been trying to do other things to take my mind off football, but I truly don't understand it. And this one hurts more than the NFL just because you felt you've proved yourself. I felt I've done enough, more than enough to be on one of these teams. Coaches are sticking with their guys. And at the end of the day, I tell myself, sometimes you can be on the right and wrong side of politics, because if the Maulers would have stayed, and there could be people at home like, oh, I'm better than that guy. Like, why is Boogie? I was in calling for my job, and the coach would be like, okay, this is our guy. So that's kind of what's been going on. You have to roll with the punches. It sucks because I know I can help some of these teams. I've been watching a lot of bad football. Teams have been getting gassed in the run game. There's guys that haven't got any sacks, any pressures, and I don't call out my peers because I know these guys personally. You never wish for guys to get injured. That's not how I want an opportunity. So it's just been tough to watch, but I've also been enjoying the league because I'm a football junkie. I like talking about it. I like rooting on my friends and seeing them live out their dreams and things like that. I just hope somebody calls maybe next year, give me an opportunity, because I still have a lot of football left. I had an amazing year last year. I truly don't understand who coffee I pissed in, or I feel like I feel like Colin Kaepernick right now. I feel like I'm getting caught out of the league. I don't know why.
Someone's Cheerios got ruined.
Yeah, I don't know. I did everything to push the league forward. I'm always pushing the spring league scene forward. I'm part of the union. It sucked, like being in the meetings, working on all those things to get the guys better deals and things like that, not even reaping the benefits of it myself. It's been another tough pill to swallow. Spending all that time in off season for free, doing all those things, speaking on the guys' behalf, and not being able to see anything come from it has been tough. But it is what it is. It's been real tough for me. But I'm sure there are a lot of guys in this situation, who teams got cut or who feel like they deserve an opportunity. And life isn't fair. Fair is a place where they judge pigs. So it's okay.
Well, I think a lot of people were surprised because, beyond your dominant performance at defense, you were, I would say, arguably one of the faces of the league. You were one of the guys that was being showcased in the TV show that they had season 1. They followed your journey into the league. And then, on social media, and you're doing other things outside of football too. You were Super Bowl commercial, right? You got some things going on, man.
Peloton.
Let me ask you. So season 2, we talked about season 2. You mentioned it a little bit. When we look forward, I don't want to say it's going to happen because I don't think anything's guaranteed in spring football ever, but there's a lot of talk of potential expansion. And I'm curious, as a guy who's, trying to get back into the league, as are many players. We saw 16 teams get condensed down to 8. I'm curious where you would like to see the league expand. I know on the internet, there's this huge argument. Some people think, we need to go in these smaller towns, maybe go into like Oklahoma, Iowa, things like that. And then there's other folks that think kind of the approach of going into towns that are, have NFL or maybe dying for the NFL. Kind of Birmingham's kind of that middle city tier. I'm curious where you would like to see a team either return or expand to in this UFL next year.
Me personally, obviously, I'm going to be biased here, but I'll start off with San Diego. I feel like San Diego deserves a team. I'm a West Coast guy. I remember before the season, people were like, do you have any games close by? I'm like, Texas is the closest game. They're like, why are there no West Coast teams? And I get it for travel reasons. It will be tough for the league just starting off, but I do feel like that market in San Diego should get a team. They deserve it. And then also, of course, man, I'm a Pittsburgh Mauler, man. I am Mr. Pittsburgh Mauler. I would love for us to find a way into Pittsburgh. It sucks I never got to ingratiate myself in that community. I did more for Cleveland than I did for Pittsburgh. I was in the Cleveland and Ohio markets doing community service and things like that, radio shows, and getting that market to come out. And we were the Pittsburgh Maulers, not the Ohio Maulers. So
I think
maybe
that's one of the big issues.
yeah, that was the reason. And then the Browns, they hate the Steelers. We were black and gold playing in Canton, Ohio, telling guys to come out and support. So it was just tough, but I would like to see the Maulers come back, whether it's the Ohio Maulers or an Ohio market team. I feel like would be great. So if I had to choose, I would say San Diego and Ohio/Pittsburgh.
Right on. Now I'll bring this up. This is actually, I think it's breaking news. Nobody's talked about this. I've talked about it with James behind the scenes, but when we look at the two leagues, the XFL and the USFL coming together, they both had different start times, right? The XFL kicked off right after the Super Bowl. The USFL more closer to Easter, so we're looking mid-March. I've heard that the league might be looking at moving the start date now to March 1st going next year. Now, to me, what I've been told is this could be around weather, right? But it also, to me, does open up the opportunity. Well, if you're going to move the season earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean that the end of the season is going to end earlier. It could account for the expansion. Let's take expansion out of the mix. I'm curious from your perspective as a player, that's somebody that's out there on the field. You know, some of these places are cold, some of these places are warm. Is there a perfect kickoff for spring football? What is your take on that?
I say it depends what your end game is. If it's to get guys to move on to the next level, if this league is supposed to be the opportunity to get more tape and go to the NFL, you want to get the season done earlier so that guys have time to recover and then can get into the end of OTAs and actually have a true opportunity to make a roster. Because as you've seen, the XFL timeline was better for guys moving forward to the NFL because they actually had a chance to go be a part of OTAs. Mm-hmm. And learn a playbook and actually get in front of coaches, as opposed to the USFL guys. When we were done, coaches in the NFL were on breaks and then they started training camp. And you really don't, it's very, very hard to make a NFL roster or practice squad without doing OTAs. And then you just become a camp body, mm-hmm. which nobody wants to be, unfortunately. So I would say moving it up for a player's perspective is the best way to do things. Now, logistic-wise and optics with the league and weather, that's for them to figure out. But if I had to choose, the earlier the better for giving guys opportunities to move on to the next level.
I think at the end of the day, that's really the most important part of these leagues, at least for me, is I love watching the player journeys, right? One, getting the players an opportunity to get back on the field or stay on the field, and two, watching them move into, the next step in their career, whether that's becoming an all-star in one of these spring leagues or, the inevitable ultimate goal of moving into the NFL. I'm curious on the rest of the panel here, because again, I maybe one or two of you, I had mentioned this behind the scenes, but start date, what is your take on moving it to March 1st? Potentially, nothing's guaranteed until it's in a press release from the league, naturally. But it seems like there's at least discussions on when to start the season. I know, like I said, on the internet, there's always the argument of some people love right after the Super Bowl, some people love later. What was the rest of y'all's takes?
I like the idea of moving it up. Like to Boogie's point, I think it's better for the players. I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense weather-wise. We've also seen like some really poor attendance from some of these stadiums, which certain fans are going to chop my head off if I name who, so I'm not going to at the moment, but you know who you are. There's just been it's just been disappointing. I mean, especially in some of these cities where they're playing in the middle of the day, and now we're in May, it's going to be June, and it's really hot. Ref, I mean, you just got yourself sunburnt yesterday. Like, you can't really expect a ton of people to show up when it's that hot, when the weather isn't great. So I think moving it up would be the right decision for so many reasons that outweigh having it later. Now, it made sense to have it later this year because the merger. I mean, that took absolutely forever. Boogie, I know you were in the middle of it with the UFLPA and all of that going on. I mean, it was quite the process. So having it later this year made sense, but they've always talked about moving it up or changing that date in future seasons. So I think it makes the most sense, and hopefully they move it up at some point because I think that would be better for the players and better for the league in general.
I've always been a fan of the start after the Super Bowl week. I understand there's a lot of issues with that as far as like ratings. You have things like the March Madness and some of those things that are getting in your way. But at the end of the day, I'm watching this to watch guys make their dreams come true and go to the NFL. And like Boogie said, I think it's the best opportunity to get guys to the NFL. If you can get it so players can go to rookie mini camps, they can get even better looks. So guys who might not have even gotten a tryout in training camp. So for me, that's always been the case. I get why, people like a later date. It might be better for the financial side of the league, but I'm always team start after the Super Bowl personally.
I mean, I'll give you this. I like the happy medium of what a March 1st start date brings, because personal opinion, I prefer a little bit of the cushion. I've come to appreciate having a little bit of a breather. That's more personal preference, and also just kind of my football mind going from seasons over the NFL. Now I can kind of focus in UFL side, but that's really more of a singular thing for me. It's up in the air. The thing that comes down to debating where to start is, I think, a lot of the factors with, I think players in particular, I do agree with that. The earlier start absolutely helps them. So you definitely are putting that into play. And I think, honestly, personal opinion, I would understand about the union would also appreciate that for players that are going to go the next step as well. If they get to start earlier too, in a March 1st sense, then they can get ready at the end of the year for, like you're talking, like we've said, OTAs and whatnot. I get that. What you're going to see is a struggle here where you have a TV company that owns half of the league that also is going, and I also believe in the background probably is grinding their teeth going, all right, we'll compete with March Madness and do all that. That's fine. And I get that that's what the struggle really is. Like, that's why they're really sitting here, and this is what is everyone's debate is, do you compete with March Madness and the early season of like other sporting leagues and going into the playoffs here more so. And they are kind of doing this already with the NBA, but like even more so with the NBA late season. I think this year it helped that they are established and already in. I think this is what we're seeing as fans wanted this merger, and it looks right, and the ratings are hitting correctly now. The change of the start date, I don't know if that'll intertwine and those two audiences will be a problem. I know March Madness is the more watched product, but I believe that whatever works best, where both sides in terms of players can go get their reps elsewhere, the company that owns one of the main entities that owns Fox, who wants to make sure that they're, not going to be losing any ratings portions of this, and also keep in mind so that they can, keep the upward momentum and eventually raise ad rates to help make more money for this league to then thrive more, is what's being debated. March 1st, I think, works. I would say if I'm in that room talking about it, I wouldn't say it's probably a universal pick that everyone's on board for that, but I think it's worth a shot. Also, and not to mention, like the chat's talking to, the attendance, I think, is the bigger discussion right now that everyone's a little flustered by, is just the drop off in the majority of these markets this year with the attendance. If they can hit the marketing right and get it where it's more ideal times that these players or that these people can come in, watch games, the packages are more friendly to where you can go to outdoor venues and not completely feel like garbage in like late May through June. It helps too in that sense. In a lot of southern venues, it'll be slightly calmer weather and feel nicer during that time of year to end the season towards May. So there's a lot going on. It's a very finite balance you're playing here, is all I can say. And there's the schools of thought will clash, but it's worth a shot. It's early years of this still. As long as they reiterate, hey, we moved the start date up. You have to be really thorough with that with people. Mm-hmm. And I mean, you have to be basically hammering that in with a freaking sledgehammer in people's faces when you're talking about it. We are starting March 1st. Yep. There is no end of March. You got to keep people consistent on when you're playing. You can't keep flipping around. That's a problem itself too.
Yeah, I mean, the hope would be is now that the league is merged, you don't have kind of the marketing issues that you had going into this season. Not that the league didn't market itself, because once they announced the name, there was ads on TVs, they were doing things, they were doing all the things that they needed to do. Maybe not to the extent that we saw in the years prior, but my hope would be now that everything's kind of together, you go into the second season and you keep bringing things up throughout the summer, right? We already talked about the collegiate draft. That's, I think, happening in August. So that's another opportunity for people to talk about the league. And then once you go into the NFL season, my hope would be is that they just continue to pepper those UFL ads The same way that Fox threw USFL ads on every game that they played. It didn't matter if it was football or racing or whatever. Hey, if there's an opportunity to talk sports, they were going to use that as an opportunity to talk about the USFL. My hope is that we see the same about the UFL. It'd be nice if ESPN did the same as well. I'm not going to lie, right? It'd be great to see, like, I don't know how many people watch SportsCenter anymore, but I assume people do. Bring up the UFL. I mean, it's on your channel, right? Something else. So on the trend of season 2, I do have some other news and this will make Houston Roughnecks fans happy. I think. I'm sure there's some people that like Rice Stadium.
I almost guarantee it will make them happier.
And I want to preface this. I like Rice Stadium. I don't have anything against Rice Stadium. But if I was given the choice, would I rather the Roughnecks play in Rice Stadium or TDECU? I'm probably going to pick TDECU. Case in point, I wouldn't have this sunburn right now. They have a really nice setup at TDECU where half the stadium gets shade. And if not, they have like a club area. It's, I don't know. Before the renovations, which is the reason that they weren't there this year, before the renovations, it was a pretty nice stadium. You add in a couple $100 million of renovations on top of it, it's going to be even nicer. But the good word is it looks like things are in motion. Things are in motion for the Roughnecks to return to TDECU Stadium next year. Not guaranteed. Again, I always say nothing's guaranteed until it's out in a press release from the league. That's how I save myself from the angry people. They still get angry at me anyway. But, I mean, that was kind of the talk of the town in Houston yesterday. And I had some follow-up conversations with a few folks that I know, not only with the stadium, but folks at TDECU. And although none of them said, yep, it's happening, I've gotten everything from chances are high, looking good, things are in motion. So I'll take that as the conversation's at least happening. I know it's something that at least a lot of the fans that I was sitting around were looking forward to, was the potential of moving back to TDECU Stadium. I personally am super amped about it, so I hope to see it happen. But to me, the big thing that comes out of that conversation is some other conversation, or basically Houston's not being relocated out of town. I know that, fans look at things and
people love throwing relocation around a lot these days.
Right.
It's amazing how quickly things get thrown into the relocation bin.
Well,
like
they were half right. They are relocating. They're just relocating back to where they were originally, hopefully, potentially. But so I'm curious to see, though, because we had these conversations earlier in the season because it was brought up, are they going to relocate the Memphis Showboats? Are they going to relocate the Michigan Panthers? I don't think so. I could see some stadium changes. That could absolutely happen. Michigan gets tough, though, because you kind of really want that dome. Why? What did I do?
I just saw it. I had to put it on there.
All right, James,
So,
you're up.
Rev, I'm with you. I mean, look.
We have in the back room, looks like somebody that wants to very much put on pause. It's interesting. I see what's going on with some people saying our BHAM pass is revoked. Apparently,
what did I say? What did I do?
No. It's what everyone's talking about. This is what's going on. I know what Luke. I know what Luke's here for. I'm ready to hear.
I was sent in here on behalf of the city of Birmingham to say that that none of you all are welcome to step foot in the city or state of Alabama again, because all of you are haters.
Ooh.
Why though? What did we say? All we said was, actually, you know what? I'm the one that did you justice. I said, look, Holtz went out there and didn't play his A game because they're going to have to play the Brahmas in a couple weeks.
You got bundled in, trust me.
Now everybody else, they did say the Stallions suck. They're done for. There's no chance in hell they're getting a playoff win. So I get why you're mad at them.
Thorne, how many games has San Antonio won in their franchise history?
Wait a minute.
That's no bearing on anything. They're 1-0 this weekend.
If you don't know.
No, I know it's
they've
10.
won 10 games in their entire history. And if you don't know, the Stallions actually just finished a 15-game win streak. Okay, so the Stallions took an L for the first time in over a year after winning 150% more games than the Brahmas have ever even won.
I got a stat for you, Luke. I got a stat for you.
Look at him. He wants to say something so bad.
I want to hear this. I'm looking.
Real quick, let me just throw this one in, and Boogie, it's all you. But Luke, I got a stat for you. Ref's Law has a better record than the Stallions since the beginning of last season. What's your take on that?
It does, Luke. You know Ref's Law? Because all the players know Ref's Law.
Damn right.
All I know is that Ref's Law is that Houston can't win a game.
I mean, depends on the season. Anyway, Boogie, the floor is yours.
I mean, I really can't say much to them. They beat us twice, so I can't stand them. But if you want to dethrone them, you got to beat them, and they always find a way to win. That's why they can talk how they talk. That's why Luke sits up there and pokes his chest out with those big old goggles on his face. And you can't really tell him anything because they win. As annoying as that fan base is, and they are annoying, they show me love. I don't have a problem with them. They've always been nice to me, but I see them going back and forth with other fan bases. It's because they win, and that's what comes with winning. Other fan bases are jealous. Then you guys become cocky. But as you've seen this weekend, you still have to line up and play. So don't count your eggs before they hatch, Luke, because you haven't won 3 in a row yet.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I never.
No, you think you can see in the future with those bifocals, but you cannot.
Well, here's the thing. What I do know is that I'm going off of facts, and the facts are that the Stallions are 29-4 in 3 years, and people want to act like because they lost a game by 1 touchdown on the road in a game where they had nothing to play for. And like I can make a lot of excuses for them. They lost. Like that's very clear. Like I'm not going to sit here and say San Antonio wasn't the better team this weekend or didn't come more prepared or didn't deserve to win or anything like that. But it's just wild to me that you have a franchise that has lost 4 games in 3 years, and people want to act like all of a sudden they're like the 4th best team in this league or something like that.
Well, I wouldn't say that. People do have a right to call out their flaws and dissect the game that they did see on Sunday, though, right? Sure. That's more so what I've been hearing and what we've been doing on this show.
Yeah, well, you've got people in this room saying that Michigan has a bigger test by playing a team like San Antonio or St. Louis than by playing Birmingham, and already looking past Birmingham to the championship.
Hell no. Maybe
when did
I don't think
that is a
that combo whatsoever.
That is a quote from a person on this show right now.
Oh, so that's
it's really interesting, Luke, that you're still in the Discord.
I'm actually not in the Discord, but I have people that are.
He's got the connections.
There are spies in the Discord. I will tell you that. We've seen that.
Yeah, Luke's one of them.
Yeah, and I got people still working for me. I don't even have to be in
I don't think nobody is disrespecting the Stallions. Everybody knows they're the class of the league.
So you don't think it's disrespectful to the Stallions to say that Michigan is going to have a harder time and needs to focus on
Can I
Louis
talk?
and San Antonio than playing Birmingham? Because somebody on this show said that.
They said that Michigan's going to have a harder time doing what?
With San Antonio or St. Louis.
Than playing Birmingham?
Yes.
Can I defend myself?
I mean, I don't know if he was saying the matchup favors better. I doubt he was saying
that's literally all. I think they match up better against Birmingham.
Which is fair. You can say that when you're comparing two things. This matchup may be better, but I don't think anybody's disrespecting the Stallions.
Like no, yeah, and
they're the face of the league, and they're trying to repeat, and they have the best roster, the best team. Just they had a bad game this weekend. That's my take on it. And there are areas of concern moving forward that they need to get cleaned up, or you can get beat any given Sunday, which will be against Michigan if they don't clean up those things. Because the areas that they're lacking in are some of the strengths that Michigan has moving forward, which has caused some concern from some people on the panel. That's where I think he was taking it. If he was being disrespectful, he's all yours, Luke. I'm not being disrespectful. Don't get me.
No, I'm not. Clear. Everything you're saying is fair.
All right, let Nick go. Go ahead, Nick.
Nick, go ahead, man.
I don't care what Nick has to say.
The solo.
I don't care what Nick has to say. He's just a hater.
I heard his
I'm trying to have
articles
a
were
rational
ass, but
conversation with
that's another story.
Can
All
you
right.
take me down? I don't want to be the only one. Oh,
All right, go on. The floor is yours.
I'm also mad at Nick because I was trying to have a nice Memorial Day this weekend. I'm trying to have a nice Memorial Day weekend, and I got to come on here and set the hater straight.
Go on.
So I want to make it clear that I still think like Birmingham, like on paper, is like the most talented team, and that's like
Yeah. Backtrack, buddy. Backtrack.
Okay.
How did he get from unmuted?
Go on.
Those glasses are power, man, I'm telling you.
Oh my god, they are the most talented team. Like I was never arguing that, right? My issue is just that right now they're showing some weaknesses that I think could be fatal flaws, and that was my whole argument. A lot of people like have because of the winning, have overlooked a lot of things with this team. I'm not saying that Birmingham's not a great team. I think all four of the teams left are really good teams, and I think Birmingham's the best on paper, but I can't look at some of these issues that have been there the whole time but hasn't mattered because they're well coached and like they've out-talented teams. Those issues are there, and we saw when they played a team that's really good in San Antonio, they exploited them. They're going to have to adjust. That's going to have to happen. If they win a championship this year, they cannot play like they did this weekend. I think you would agree with that also. They did not play a good game. They scored 9 points. There's a lot of issues there. But they're still a good team. There's a reason they're 8-1. I'm not trying to take away from that, but I am saying that like assuming that they're going to roll through every team in the playoffs, I don't think it's fair. I mean, they've played a lot of close games this year, and I think that's going to continue.
Yeah, nobody has said they're going to roll through the playoffs. Like, go back and watch any of my shows, and every single one of my shows, I've literally had a point multiple weeks where I've said the Stallions are clearly a beatable team. They beat the Roughnecks by 1 touchdown a week ago, and we all know how trash the Roughnecks are. Sorry, ref. But the fact of the matter is two things can be true at the same time. You can say on the one hand that the Stallions are beatable and there's parity in this league, and that the Stallions are still the class of the league and the team to the beat and the best team in the league, despite the fact that they lost in the worst game that they played this past weekend in 2 years.
Well, I'm not saying that. So,
yeah, because you think St. Louis, who lost to Arlington this weekend, is better than us.
No,
they lost to Arlington, and you think they're a better matchup and they could beat Michigan, but we can't.
So you want to say, like, if we're going to criticize them, just make sure we end it by saying, "Oh, they're still the best team in the league, though." By the way,
yeah,
and then you'll be okay.
It's called take the whole body of work rather than looking at one game where they played the worst that they have in 2 years.
I see. I beg to differ.
I think our points have been made.
I don't feel like they were being disrespected because I know how good they are, and I feel like everybody knows that they're the face of the league. I feel like them losing right now.
We talking about the Panthers?
Hey,
why is he muted? Why is he muted?
Ducky.
Wow, I was muted the whole time.
I didn't mute
Not
him.
the whole time.
No, someone
Just who did that?
Somebody muted me. Okay, I'm done.
100% Luke.
I don't have the ability to mute.
I don't think
anyone.
Luke has the ability to
join
mute.
here
Yeah,
on
who
my
did
phone.
that? Come on. What?
Just if you're going to talk about the Stallions and them losing this week, make sure you just end it by saying that they're still the face of the league and the best team. Because I guess they're above criticism.
I
was
look at
saying
this
that
whole
they're the best team in the league, saying they're above criticism.
I
Are
look
they
at
or
this
are
as
they
like
not the
any
best team in the
NFL
league?
discussion where
They are the best team in the league right now.
Okay,
They are. But I just don't want you to
people
get
are telling me
upset
that San Antonio and St. Louis are better than us, and Michigan is actually probably better than us.
Not what I said.
I wouldn't take
Sorry.
it that far because that's just trolling at that point, and I'll leave that to Ducky. When it comes to trolling, I'll leave that to the troll god. But
pass that
they
over.
aren't above criticism, and they have flaws, and they can be beat.
Obviously, they lost this weekend.
Yeah, so why are you so upset? What's pissing you off so much that we can't talk about Birmingham not being this godly team? Like, yes, they lost this weekend, and yes, they're still the face of the league.
I got bad news for you, Luke. I just finished ordering a Birmingham Stallions jersey, and I'm going to become the #1 Stallions fan. And,
That's fine,
because
but
I've been told, I've been told I'm the biggest jinx there is in spring football. So I will follow your direction. I will root for the Stallions so hard.
Am I still welcome to
do it from
Birmingham?
Houston. Do what?
Am I welcomed in Birmingham?
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
We need to sign you for the playoff run.
That ship is sailed.
Oh,
You never know.
If they don't expand next year, you guys will be the first. And I told James, if they don't expand next year, and if I don't get, that's it. I don't know. I can't believe this. I can't take this anymore.
I hear you.
My
Look
mental
what you've
health
done,
can't
Luke.
take it.
Yeah, Luke, this is all your fault.
No, he came in here guns
Chaos agent.
blazing.
Because my mentions were blowing up.
Well, I saw Obama on Twitter just be like, dude, you need to get on here. They're blasting the Stallions. I was like, are we? I don't even think we are.
It was just Thorne.
Oh, yeah. There was one of us. Anyway.
All right, I'm boycotting Thorne's roster sheet. Everyone boycott Thorne's roster sheet.
All I'm going to tell you is that this is going to be, and this is why this conversation is like this. Anytime you see this in the NFL too, top team loses. Every time you're going to get the teams picked apart for what the little intricacies are. It's every single time. This is any common NFL discussion like that. So, hey, top teams got to hear from every one of the sides, and usually the top team also gets critiqued a little bit more if something happens. It's just the name of the game. So, like I said, penalties. I need to see some cleaned up penalties, Luke. I'm just telling you right now. Not a very disciplined defense these days.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had our defensive coordinator for 2 weeks in a row now, and they definitely shot themselves in the foot. But, again, I feel better about us playing our absolute worst and it being a one-possession game at the end than being a couple completed passes away from tying it up and sending it to overtime than us playing our worst game and getting blown out or something like that.
I mean, I don't think anybody's going to blow Birmingham out, but.
Well, ask Thorne. He probably thinks that.
Damn.
This has been one of the funniest bits we've ever had on this show.
He's so serious, too. That's the thing. His blood is really boiling. I can see it through the screen. Do not speak any bad words about the Birmingham Stallions without giving them their flowers first, or you'll have to hear from Luke.
Oh,
now I know.
What a show.
This is why I love this show. Yeah, I don't know. What else do we got? I don't even know where to go with this show anymore. I think we're Luke, you have any other topics for us? I mean, you're here.
No, I want to shout out the UFL and just say thank you for them for letting a poverty franchise like Birmingham in it, letting us play against all these teams that are so much better than us, especially the XFL teams, because God knows they're all way better than us.
He copied and pasted this from Jace.
And shout out to the commentators out there online, like Nicholas Thornbush, who are willing to waste their
Not
time
the full
and breath, talking about such a terrible team like the Birmingham Stallions. That's all I got to say.
Damn.
Put that comment up. Scott.
Which one?
This one here? Well, Boogie, I'm so glad that we finally had a chance to get you on, and I'm glad it was this episode. Good old Memorial Day episode, by the way. Thank you for anybody who served, or if you have family members that served, this is the day. But I mean, I never knew that this show would be so entertaining. It feels like every time we have a new guest, it gets more fun, but I don't know. This one feels like it's going to be hard to top. Any final thoughts before we get into points? Because we do give out points.
I didn't know when we were going to end because I haven't got to eat a plate of barbecue yet.
Oh my God!
No.
What have we done?
Christ.
All right. Well, we're going to solve that for you here.
I appreciate you guys. This has been amazing. I hope to come back on the show. I have a lot of free time on my hands, so
you must be back.
Whenever you guys need me, I'm here.
James will be in contact.
And I'll make sure that Ducky's not the one DMing you, and it's someone who stays on top of things a little bit more.
And if nobody tells you guys, I appreciate everything you guys do for the spring football scene. Luke, James, Nick, Zach, of course, Duck and Ref. You guys are amazing. Help pushing this thing forward for free. Like, you guys do this for free, and you guys are what this league needs to thrive. And passionate fans like Luke, who will argue you up and down for his team, that doesn't go unnoticed because this league needs that. So just keep pushing. As a player, I appreciate it, and thank you guys for everything.
We appreciate you, Boogie, and I'll tell you what, we are 100% going to see you on a field next year. It's this story's not over yet. The comeback's going to be pretty damn epic.
Yeah, I hope so. I got a lot of get back to get, a lot of vengeance. So somebody gonna feel this pain.
We want that revenge season. It was fun watching the Maulers' revenge season. I can only imagine what next year's will look like, right?
Boogie's personal revenge tour.
Hell yeah.
It's gonna be something to watch.
So, okay, let's do some points here. We'll give everybody base 5 points here. So Zach, you're gonna get 5. I'll get 5. James, we'll give you 5. Ducky, even though I think you were sleeping on the episode during one point, I'm still gonna give you 5 points. You woke up before I could showcase you on the screen.
I was probably looking down at my phone.
I'm pretty sure you were sleeping, but that's fine. That's cool. I appreciate it.
Maybe last week.
Maybe. Luke, you know what? I'm going to give you a couple extra points because you are a fan of the best team in the league. So you have 8 wins, so I'm going to give you 8 points. We're going to give you 8. That's 3 more points than the rest of the crew here.
And then -1 because you lost.
Yeah, actually, you can point. Yeah, I'm going to give you 7 points. Even though the math doesn't make sense there. Let's see here. I'm going to give, who did I miss? Thorn. What am I going to give you? I'm going to give you 8 points just for arguing with Luke. I think that was a entertaining segment in itself. Ducky,
don't recommend.
Oh wait, no, that. Thorn Raven popped up on his cam. So,
you know what? 9 points. Yeah. You're right. You're right. 9 points. So now here's the debate. So right now, Jace is in the lead with 69 points, and I really like that is the leading number. Now I'm curious, Boogie. Would you rather beat Jace? No, you're going to get points. That's what. So I want to know: would you rather have more points than Jace, or would you be rather tied with him at?
He's going to be humble. He's going to be humble.
Yeah, keep in mind who was going.
What do we do with these points?
We don't know.
We have absolutely no idea.
They will be deciding something by the end of the year.
Oh no, I got plans. You're going to be able to do all sorts of shit with these points. Don't you worry.
Where's the dump button?
I want as many points as possible.
420.
420 points it is. All right. Ding, ding, ding. Well, there you have it, folks. Boogie is now the leader in the points at 420. There's only a couple weeks left in the season, so I think that's going to be hard to top. We might have to get Jace back on the show.
It's Ref's Law, man.
Ref's Law are the points. I don't know. I'm leaving here with something.
I'm gonna, you know what? I'll connect with you off air because I'll get you some Ref's Law gear. I got some Ref's Law hats on the way. I gotta wait until the last game of the season to see what the total percentage of Ref's Law is gonna be. But I'll get you some Ref's Law gear, and you know what? Spread the word. And then
he doesn't need a word. All the players already know.
Yeah, they already know. That's all they can talk about.
CJ Johnson's up there like, freaking ref, man. Like, this guy.
Oh, you should have seen the looks he gave me during the game yesterday. He just kept turning around and get the out of here, man.
Nolan Henderson thought about ref's law, and he was like, all right, I'm going to slip on this final drive and lose him the game.
Bryce Perkins runs for 22 to get that 3rd and 16. Ref's Law, it's right there.
I don't like Ref's Law of the game, but I do like Ref's Law of the season. I do like the I'll be honest, and I'll be truthfully honest. There's been times where I've rooted against the Roughnecks this year because I'm like, well, I want Ref's Law to continue going on, and the Panthers already won this week.
I just heard you say the cardinal sin of fandom right there.
You know what? Ref's Law is just such an anomaly. Now, next year, I'm officially canceling Ref's Law at the end of this season, so we don't have to worry about it next year, hopefully. We'll see.
Well, I don't want anything to do with it. Keep your gear then if it's not finna go on.
Oh, no. I mean, I don't have a choice in the matter.
This is a facade. He's not going to end this. It's not over.
And trust me, here's the thing with
end
me.
This show, I'll tell you that.
Well, here's the thing with me. If Ref's Law doesn't work.
James got some news to go break. He's itching to get on Twitter.
Yeah. Breaking Ref's Law is cooked.
The transactions are still coming out today, so James probably has to get to that with his sources. So,
oh yeah.
Well, I think that's a good segue for us to get out of here. You guys know the deal, folks. Make sure you're following us online at Around the UFL. Make sure you're following, subscribe on YouTube. Click the bell. It builds morale. Boogie, where can they find you?
You can find me in the unemployment line, the guy that doesn't have a job right now. You can start a GoFundMe for Boogie Roberts. That will be helpful. You can also see me in Peloton commercials or things like that on your TV screen. Yeah, that's me, the guy without a job. So, yes, I'm here.
You can also
my
find
sidekick,
Jaron
Jaron Horton, the unemployed coach. So, we come as a package deal. Boogie and Jaron comes as a package deal. So, anybody want to change their franchise,
this man,
give us a call.
This man
coming to a team near you in Ohio.
We also come with the #1 super fan Ducky. So, 3-for-1 special.
That is a fact.
This man is the best unemployed bike salesman I've ever seen.
It's crazy. I dropped DC so fast. That was incredible.
So yeah, that's where you can find me.
And look what happened to DC. Without Ducky fandom, DC fell off hard. Without Ducky and Boogie, man, they went 9-1 last year, and they tempted fate. And look what happened. Well, I think that's it, folks. Until next time. Oh, I got to get things ready. Man, this is why I shouldn't have hosted this week. But yeah, until next time, sign you guys up.
You have to do the 5-minute thing again.
Hire this man.
No, we don't.